Hello, and welcome back to the Stay at Home GM podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell McCann, flying solo today to bring you guys an all new segment I like to call Mitch's Minutes. This is going to be a segment where I can really dive in on a topic that I've been thinking about lately. And that topic today is going to be going over all the 32 NFL teams and their Super Bowl windows. What is a Super Bowl window? It's a projection of how likely a team has a shot at making the Super Bowl in the future. I have four categories of windows: closed, slightly open, half open, and wide open. Now, let's just jump right into it. We got the closed section. These are the 14 teams that I think for the near future do not have any kind of shot of being in the Super Bowl picture, let alone playoffs. You got the Cardinals. The uncertainty with Kyler being a top quarterback in the league and their head coach the past couple of years, Jonathan Gannon, hasn't really brought them the success that you saw from him in the Eagles on defense. Carolina, very young team. Bryce Young showed that he could be a franchise quarterback for the future, but they still have big holes on offensive defensive line. So we'll see. Browns have been cap strapped for cash for a long time with their terrible mistake of paying Deshaun Watson all that money, and he's been completely ineffective quarterback. Now they're getting Myles Garrett $40 million a year to just basically suck. So they have realistic shot. The Cowboys here, they've just been pretty much stuck in the same rotating cycle that they have, is where they think they're going to be good and then they really aren't. You're paying Dak Prescott $60 million a year for a middling quarterback. They only have CeeDee Lamb as weapon out there. Micah can't carry a whole defense by himself, and Jerry Jones, being the decision maker, does not help them at any capacity in making pushes for the Super Bowl. The Colts and the Jaguars have questions regarding their talent pool around their teams. Anthony Richardson, their stop and go push for him. Should we keep him on the bench? Should we start him? Kind of really hindered his development. Trevor Lawrence coming out, everybody was really high on him, and in these past few years, he hasn't really shown the potential to be that franchise top 10 quarterback that everyone says. Then you got the Raiders. While they bring in Pete Carroll, Geno Smith as quarterback, that's kind of like they're kind of in this weird area where they aren't really rebuilding, but they're not contending. They kind of in this weird area. And I know Pete Carroll's only got 3 years for the contract. Geno Smith just signed an extension to be there for the whole 3 years. So that's looking like what's going to be the plan. Geno's going to be the quarterback for the next 3 years. They have a lack of talent at the wide receiver position, running back position, and the secondary positions. So they have a lot of needs, and hopefully they can address that. They have the cap space, but they haven't really used it on any kind of quality players. The Dolphins are in the same kind of boat as the Browns with how much money they're giving to only a certain amount of players. Tua's being paid a lot of money, and he hasn't shown you any kind of ability to be someone that you can lean on to carry an offense. Tyreek, does he want to be in Miami? Does he not want to be in Miami? That's kind of an issue itself. And mostly health has been an issue in Miami. A lot of key injuries to key players at the worst amount of times. And the question is Mike McDaniel going to be one of those coaches that does better at being a coordinator than he is a head coach? While they've had some success, he hasn't really gotten them the playoff success that you see. New England's also in the same boat as Carolina. Lack of talent pretty much everywhere, but they do have a bright future with their quarterback, Drake May, and they have a lot of money, but they haven't seemed to get in the big marquee names. The New York Giants and the Jets, they're very also, their offenses are the reason why. They have two solidly good defense. The Jets, of course, have their two big stars, Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams. The Giants, Dexter Lawrence is a great D-tackle, and they have some solid studs there on defense. But offenses have been the issue, especially for the Giants. They have a stud wide receiver, league neighbors, Jets, Garrett Wilson, and they've had questions at quarterback. They bring in Justin Fields for the Jets. He's going to be kind of a stopgap, it looks like. there's not really a lot of talent in this draft for a quarterback, so they're going to probably stay with him for a couple years. The Giants, they bring in two veterans, Winston and Russell Wilson. Russ is going to be the starting quarterback. It just seems like they're kind of doing a stopgap and hoping next year's draft will be more of a quarterback filled draft. Maybe they're trying to look like they're going to be 6 or 7 wins, which doesn't really show what kind of future they have. Brian Dayball, and the GM there, Joe Shane, they're very much lame ducks. This 1 year, they try to get much as they can out of these players on their offense, just trying to save their jobs, which is not a good position to be in, but that's the position they're unfortunately in. The New Orleans Saints have been on multiple records, just keep pushing this cap hit way down the line. They keep on structuring contracts to where the money hits later, and they haven't been using it on talent that can actually help them. I used to be a big Derek Carr guy when he was on the Raiders, but he's a complete shell of himself in New Orleans. Their defense is old. Cam Jordan, great guy, awesome veteran, but he's up there in age. Kamara on offense, he's getting older up there, and he's taking a lot of hits and having a lot of injury stuff. So they're kind of stuck in this little area. Seattle, they're in complete rebuild mode. They've traded away Geno Smith. They're DK Metcalf traded the Steelers. They let Tyler Lockett go. They're completely changing into a whole new guard with Mike McDonald as their head coach. So they're more of in a culture change, trying to rebuild their mystique, I guess, to trying to get back to it. And of course, Tennessee Titans, while they're letting Brian Callen have another year, they really don't have a lot of talent on that team. Will Levis, just not the quarterback, but it looks like they're going to be rolling with him in the future. And, there's not a lot there to say about Tennessee, but those are the teams where I think that, they just haven't set themselves up in any capacity to be Super Bowl caliber or even playoff caliber to be exact. Moving on to the slightly open. We've got 11 teams here. We got the Atlanta Falcons, who they're about some of these teams are going to be very similar. So Atlanta, Chicago, they have solid talent everywhere. They just haven't seen a lot of consistency with it. Caleb Williams last year, your number one pick, everyone thought he was going to be, the guy taking over. Some people, myself included, thought playoffs could be in the picture for them, but their coaching was a problem and an issue. So they went out and they beefed up the O-line in offseason. Atlanta, they have also another stud at quarterback. Looks like Michael Penix might be a franchise guy that they thought they were going to sit on for a couple of years with Kirk Cousins coming in. But Kirk is also looking like a shell of himself coming off the injury. But it looks like they saved themselves by having Penix back him up. So they're two solid young teams with talent, but you haven't seen it yet. But it's slightly open. They're showing some signs of, playoffs, possible Super Bowl. Denver, I wasn't a fan of last year. I thought they were going to be terrible. They've been stuck in a cap space deficit due to Russell Wilson's huge contract they gave him. But Sean Payton showed that if you get him a solid quarterback that fits his scheme, he can do really well. And especially that young defense they got. Nick Bonito, second, top 3 in sacks. They looked amazing last year for what the lack of talent I thought they didn't have. They still have some holes. Another wide receiver would be great. Solid, running back. Their O-line's still really good. So they have a bright future. I think the surprises for most people here will be why the Detroit Lions are here. Slightly over. I know they've been the belle of the ball past couple of years. Dan Campbell's been an enigma. People love his, inspiring speeches and his personality, but I think there's some big holes on that team that are going to hold them back from ever being in that Super Bowl picture. Jared Goff being the number one, you can't have a quarterback that gets worse in the playoffs. And you kind of see what happened when you have to rely on somebody like that. He turned the ball over so many times in that game against a young Commanders team that it kind of questions whether you can trust him in a big spot like that. Uh, Jared Goff, when he comes from the his postseason numbers go down. His regular season pass yards a game 261, he drops to 245. His completion percentage from 65.6 to 61.2. Passer rating from 95 down to 85. His QBR stays the same, but what they wanted to do was kind of keep that load off of him. When he has during his tenure from Rams to Detroit, his pass attempts per win are at 31, and when they're at those loss, they're up to 38. So when he's got the ball in his hands and it's his job to win the game, it hasn't shown very much results there. They also have a lot of holes on that secondary, and the big problem I see here is that they bought both their coordinators. Aiden Hutchinson, who I don't think is on any tier near a Myles Garrett, a TJ Watt, Max Crosby kind of guys like that. He's in a tier below, maybe a tier 2 below. But you saw with his when he left due to his injury that they could not get any pressure. They had to blitz the most in the league. So he's going to come back, and if he has like somewhat of a regular season, they're going to have to pay him upwards $40 million a year, which is going to hurt their chances of keeping other guys on that team. So I think that's just they're in a weird situation where they have talent, but they are not going to have enough money to go around. Green Bay, also a young team, just like the Falcons and the Bears. Their issue is consistency. They'll have stretches of great football play from Jordan Love, but then they'll have stretches where he doesn't look like anything like he's supposed to be. They do have a bright future. LaFleur is a great quarterback, great head coach. Jordan Love shown flashes. They definitely need more playmakers at wide receiver. Their defense has been losing players, but they just got to draft better. Texans, easy big question is that O-line has been an issue that they need to fix. It doesn't look like they're addressing that in the free agency. They might be addressing that in the draft. CJ Stroud had a slump this year, but he should be looking to bounce back next year. I have faith in them. D'Amico's look like a great head coach. Their defense is solid. They got young stud Will Anderson, Derek Stingley. I think their future's bright. The Chargers, purely on Jim Harbaugh, excuse me. It's culture. They don't have a lot of talent at wide receiver. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, but it's getting to the point where he's going to have to show why he's a top 10 quarterback. He's just been kind of coasting on his resume more than actually putting in the work and showing the wins in the playoffs. What he should be doing. He had an embarrassing game in the playoffs this year, and you gotta see more from him. You want to see him to take that next step. Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell did one heck of a job. Sam Darnold looking like a stud quarterback last year, going for 14 wins. That's why I fully believe they're still slightly open, because I think Kevin O'Connell is that great of a coach that even with bringing in their rookie from last year, JJ, can still have a shot. Their defense secondary could still use some work, and that's pretty much it. Pittsburgh, purely that culture with Mike Tomlin. Could this be his last year? We'll say. If they bring in Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, which is looking like what's going to happen, they have a slight chance. Their defense with TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, they're solid back there. I think they're fine. The Niners, they've dropped down as well. I think that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. I think he's undervalued for what I think people think he's just a fill-in system. I think he's a little better than that. Their defense is losing a lot of key players, though. Drake Greenlaw, Talon Hufanga left. Their O-line's still an issue. But I think with Kyle Shanahan still being the offensive genius that he is, but they still have a big open. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I love Baker. I'm a big Baker guy. I'm happy to see that he's flourishing well in Tampa. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are back. They got some issues on defense they figure out with their secondary, but the future's bright there. Having a great quarterback like Baker can take you a lot of places. And then we're moving to the half open. Got here, and we're only 3 teams here. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow had the best statistical year last year. Jamar Chase, Triple Crown, bringing back T. Higgins on that huge contract and signing Jamar to a huge contract. While I believe they have the talent to be a great team, it's just that when you strap so much money to like 3 players on your team, that kind of really dampens your future. I think their offense is that great, and maybe bringing in Al Golden, defensive coordinator from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in college, and simplifying that defense will allow players new to the team or rookies like that to easily adjust, and their defense can improve that. So it just needs to be shined. I'm not a big fan of Zach Taylor. I don't know. He hasn't really shown, other than being able to put a lot of stuff on offense together. I think he needs to kind of help out with the defense there. Commanders, one heck of a year. Dan Quinn really turned this team around, especially with the help of the rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, who spectacular year. Terry McLaurin's finally has a quarterback that can consistently get him the ball. Their defense was solid. They had some solid games, and then they have some bad games, but they have veteran leadership there. They could use another playmaker, maybe some help at secondary. So they have a bright future. They're young, and they have a head coach that can really inspire them. And then you got the Los Angeles Rams. With Sean McVay being there and Matt Stafford, they've won a Super Bowl before. Unfortunately, Cooper Kupp leaves, goes to Seattle, but they bring in Devontae Adams to pair with Puka Nacua. So they haven't lost a lot on talent on the offense. Their big issue is their offensive line health. They consistently do not have all of their starters ever. Usually 1 or 2 of them are out. They're playing second to third stringers back there. So it's just trying to get healthy. They also did trade Jonah Jackson to the Bears, so they're losing more depth there. Their defense is very young. Aaron Donald retiring last year. They filled one heck of a space. Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. They had one heck of a year. So their defense is, I think, really set for the future. They're young. So it's more addressing that offensive line and keeping Matt Stafford healthy for the next couple of years for what he's got left. He's getting up there in age and he can't take many hits anymore. So just helping him out is what's going to help the other team out. And then, of course, I got the 4 teams with their wide open Super Bowl windows. These teams are always going to be fighting for the Super Bowl every year. These are going to be the teams that are going to be in the picture. You're going to be thinking one of these 4 teams people are going to be picking to win the Super Bowl every year. Philadelphia, coming off a Super Bowl, absolute demolishing of the Chiefs. The Bills and Ravens have always been right there. Whoever, could finally topple the Chiefs easily could make the Super Bowl. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid there, Travis Kelce. Is this the last year with Kelce and Andy Reid being there with Mahomes? We'll see. But as long as they're there, they have the respect, and having the best quarterback in the league, you always have a wide open window no matter what. Josh Allen's got paid as well. They thought they were going to be doing a little worse than what they did last year with the Stephon Diggs leaving, a lot of talent on defense leaving, but they hit on draft picks. They hit on their depth players. Khalil Shakir had one heck of a year. James Cook, one heck of a year. So they have a lot of talent. And then Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry back there. Their culture with John Harbaugh on that defense, just the Ravens will always be a contender this year. But that is it for now. I would love to hear from you guys and what you think about the windows. Is there any teams you think should be higher up or lower up in the windows per se? Shoot that in the comments below. I've been Mitch McCann here with the Stay Home GM podcast. I hope to see you all next time.